So, my dear doctor friends, my name is Dr. Jatan Kumar Raychaudhuri, and today's topic of discussion is uterine fibroids. I am highly indebted to the textbook of Berek and Novak's Gynecology, Williams Gynecology, Clinical Gynecologic Endocrinology and Infertility, ACOG and RCOG journals. So the treatment options for uterine fibroids include observation, medical therapy, myomectomy, hysterectomy, uterine artery embolization, magnetic resonance guided focused ultrasound. Watchful waiting. Fibroid, if left untreated, rarely causes any harm. Therefore, for women who are mildly and moderately symptomatic with fibroids, watchful waiting may allow treatment to be deferred, perhaps indefinitely. As women approach menopause, watchful waiting may be considered as there is a limited time to develop new symptoms, and after menopause, bleeding stops and fibroids decrease in size. The average increase in fibroid volume is about 10% per year. Except for women with severe anemia from fibroid-induced bleeding or hydronephrosis from ureteric obstruction from a massive fibroid, most other cases may be kept under watchful waiting. Medical therapy. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. NSAIDs are COX inhibitors and they can correct the imbalance of the prostaglandins. Though NSAIDs can reduce idiopathic heavy bleeding, but not so effective in fibroid-induced bleeding. When mefenamic acid is used, the dose of mefenamic acid is 500 mg thrice daily for 5 to 7 days during bleeding periods. Tranexamic acid. Tranexamic acid is a synthetic antifibrinolytic agent which can be used for the management of menorrhagia at a dose of 1.3 gram thrice daily during periods to reduce heavy bleeding. Side effects are less, like headache and nausea. Combined oral contraceptives. Combined oral contraceptives, when used cyclically, they control bleeding by inducing endometrial atrophy and balancing the prostaglandins. OCPs do not increase the size of the fibroids. Progestogens like norethistérone acetate 5 mg twice daily can be given from day 5 to 25 to control bleeding. However, myoma growth is to be monitored. LNG IUS. It may be used in symptomatic cases of fibroids with heavy bleeding. It can significantly reduce menstrual blood loss. However, fibroid volume is not decreased. Device expulsion may reach 15% with fibroid size more than 3 cm. Ormeloxifene. It is a selective estrogen receptor modulator and it can be used in a dose of 60 mg twice a week for 3 months, followed by 60 mg once a week for next 3 months to control heavy bleeding. GnRH agonists. GnRH agonists induce an immediate flare of gonadotropins by stimulation of GnRH receptors, followed by desensitization and downregulation of the receptors, leading to fall of gonadotropin level. The effect is decrease in the fibroid volume and bleeding. When given GnRH for 6 months, it causes 30% reduction of fibroid volume and 35% reduction of total uterine volume. Reduction occurs mostly within the first 3 months of treatment. Heavy bleeding responds well to GnRH agonist. But after discontinuation of therapy, menses return in 4 to 8 weeks and uterine size returns in 4 to 6 months. Side effects include hypoestrogenemia induced, hot flash, vaginal dryness and transient frontal headache. Other side effects are arthralgia, emotional lability and loss of libido, etc. GnRH agonist treated hypoestrogenemia for more than 6 months may cause significant bone loss. Injection leuprolide acetate 3.75 mg subcutaneously or intramuscularly every month or 11.25 mg every 3 months may be utilized. To reduce the effect of bone loss during long-term treatment of GnRH agonist, the policies which are adopted are add-back therapy, that means low dose of estrogen and progesterone added with the treatment, or drawback therapy, where after initial full dose down regulation, the dose of GnRH agonist is reduced. That means it is maintained with subsequent half dose GnRH. However, a study with long-term GnRH agonist with or without add-back showed no significant difference in bone mass post-therapy. Women in late perimenopause may be given a trial of 6 months GnRH agonist to avoid surgery, and those who fail may be tried with a second course of GnRH agonist expecting natural menopause. Add-back therapy may be considered along with. GnRH antagonist. Unlike agonist, GnRH antagonist causes immediate suppression of gonadotrophins. Ganirelix given in a subcutaneous daily injection for 3 months results in 30% reduction of thyroid volume. Side effect includes hypoestrogenism. Now, GnRH antagonist, when available as long-acting form or recently available oral form, may be an important agent in future. Progesterone antagonist. Progesterone blocking drug mifepristone, when used for 6 months, may lead to reduction of uterine volume by nearly 50%. Result is similar to GnRH agonist. As mifepristone blocks progesterone, unopposed estrogen may lead to endometrial hyperplasia in some cases. Aromatase inhibitor. Its level is high in fibroid. Letrozole and anastrozole produce hypoestrogenemia with menopausal symptoms, bone loss, and reduction of size of fibroids. However, their role in clinical practice is not well established. Ulipristal acetate. Ulipristal acetate is a selective progesterone receptor modulator with pure antagonistic activity. It promotes remodeling of the extracellular matrix and reduction of collagen synthesis, ultimately reducing the size of the fibroids and also controlling bleeding. Women received 4 courses. Each course is of 12-week therapy of ulipristal acetate 5 mg or 10 mg orally. In nearly 70% cases, bleeding is controlled and amenorrhea established in 1 week. After 4 courses, 80% of women had more than 25% reduction in the volume of the fibroid. 6 cases developed reversible endometrial hyperplasia. Side effects include headache and hot flashes. E2 remained well above the postmenopausal level, so BMD is maintained. It can be given in unmarried girls to avoid surgery and also in perimenopausal women. RCOG has cautioned against its use in women with liver disease because of some report of fulminant hepatitis. Surgery. Options are abdominal myomectomy, laparoscopic myomectomy, laparoscopic radiofrequency ablation, hysteroscopic myomectomy, abdominal, vaginal or laparoscopic hysterectomy. Surgical intervention is needed in women with heavy uterine bleeding, pelvic pain and pressure effect like retention, frequency, etc. In advanced cases with severe anemia or ureteral obstruction, surgery should be considered. Preoperative anemia may be managed by GnRH agonist to control the bleeding along with IV iron with or without erythropoietin. Oral iron may be used for mild to moderate anemia. The increase in hemoglobin level in 3 weeks' time in IV iron when given 3 times a week for 3 weeks versus oral iron is 3 gram versus 0.8 gram per deciliter. Erythropoietin when added with IV iron results better hemoglobin rise. Abdominal myomectomy. It is a safe alternative to hysterectomy with preservation of normal anatomy and physiology. However, between myomectomy and hysterectomy, the operation time is slightly longer in myomectomy and blood loss is more in hysterectomy. The risk of hemorrhage, febrile morbidity, etc. are same. The chances of bladder, ureter and bowel injury, ileus, pelvic abscess are more common in hysterectomy than myomectomy. Myomectomy may be considered even in large fibroids who wish to preserve the uterus. The cell saver, which is a device used to collect blood intraoperatively and reinfuse the blood, may reduce the homologous blood transfusion. The chance of visceral injury is more in cases of hysterectomy versus myomectomy for larger size uterus around 15 cm. However, some other study shows almost similar morbidity. Hysterectomy without oophorectomy results more harm on ovarian reserve than myomectomy. Myomectomy, if selected carefully during caesarean section, is safe in experienced hands. Blood loss is slightly more and few may need blood transfusion. Postoperative morbidity is almost same. Preoperative counseling, myomectomy. Anemia correction and arrangement for cross-matched blood. Blood loss is less in post-menstrual proliferative phase. To exclude other cause of infertility for dealing with patients who are suffering from infertility with fibroid. To exclude other causes of RPL when treating a patient with RPL and fibroid. Cervical pap smear and endometrial sampling to exclude pre-malignancy or any malignancy. Explaining the risk of recurrence and consent for hysterectomy if necessary. Surgical techniques for abdominal myomectomy. What are the interventions required to reduce blood loss? Vaginal misoprostol when applied can reduce around 100 ml of blood. Intramyometrial vasopressin, IV tranexamic acid, Foley or rubber catheter around cervix, it may reduce around 250 ml. Polyglactin suture both around cervix and infundibular pelvic ligament may reduce around 1.5 to 2 liters. Vasopressin and tourniquet use are popular and effective than misoprostol and tranexamic acid. Combined use was not studied extensively. Care should be taken to avoid intravascular injection of vasopressin, which may cause cardiovascular collapse detected by loss of pulse and follow blood pressure. It is an off-label use of the drug. Suggested safe dose of vasopressin is less than 5 units. However, it is used as 20 international unit diluted in 200 ml saline. Half-life is 10 to 20 minutes with a duration of 2 to 8 hours. Cell saver may be effective during myomectomy. It avoids the risk of infection and transfusion reactions. Salvaged red cells are better for survival and O2 carriage. The device sucks blood from the operative field, mixes with heparinized saline and stores in a canister. If needed, the stored blood is washed with saline, filtered, centrifuged for use. Ligation of both the uterine arteries may be done during heavy bleeding or during anticipated heavy bleeding. Because the uterine arteries decannulate, future fertility is not compromised. Care should be taken on uterine incisions to avoid extension to cornu and uterine artery. Fibroids distort the course of the arcuate arteries, so it is not possible to avoid arcuate artery whether incision is given horizontal or vertical. Limiting the number of incisions suggested to reduce the risk of adhesion. However, too much tunneling inside myometrium to secure distant fibroids make hemostasis difficult and ineffective. Therefore, direct incision on fibroid with removal of easily accessible fibroids only with prompt suturing and complete hemostasis with perfect closure of the dead space reduces the extra adhesions. For posterior wall fibroid, Bonney's hood operation may be done to place the final stitch on anterior uterine wall. Adhesion barrier may be used for multiple incisions. For retroverted uterus, anteversion may be tried by plicating the round ligaments. Extending the uterine incision deep enough through myometrium, then through pseudocapsule, then through the fibroid tissue. It helps the fibroid tissue to protrude, making the identification of the less vascular surgical plane easy. This plane is deeper than commonly perceived from surface. Fibroids are completely surrounded by dense vascular supply without any distinct separate vascular pedicle. Thank you for your patient watching. If you like the video, please subscribe. Namaste.